Hello everybody and welcome to my Monday Miniatures Ramble for the 7th of August 2017. New month, new adventures. I'm Doc Ian as always, and I have finished off the last of those cobblestone castings sort of pulp adventurer minis that I was working on. And if I recall correctly, it's the Englishmen in the front and the Americans in back. Now, some of these are kind of monochromatic. The guys who are just in flight suits, for example, I have two of those, just basically in leathers. Some slight shade differences, but not a whole lot. And others are kind of ordinary, as people would look in the period, just sort of white shirt, tan pants. This guy has some sort of a pith helmet. This American guy is equally boring. I give him green pants. For this guy, I decided to vary it up. Instead of dark pants, light shirts, I went the other way around. Just for kicks. And here we have a bright sweater. And pants. Not very stealthy, but you can't always be stealthy. And here we have oh yes, another gentleman with light pants. Out hunting, perhaps. And finally, the indie clone here. I mean, if I painted him like Indiana Jones in the movies, he's even more boring. He's just all brown. I at least give this version some blue pants and a slightly orange vest. Yeah, fun stuff. And that phase of my projects is done. But strangely enough, I got even more stuff done in the past week. I've been extremely productive. Let's cover that. See, I also finished the 5 Yeti. Yet another Yeti. Yeah, because they were not that difficult. I mean, getting the fur down. It takes a few different layers of shading and highlighting, but I mean, most of the body of these guys is one color. And I mean, it's basically the fur and the skin, and that's it. And, you know, a couple of them had some equipment. This guy had the skull on the shoulder. This guy has the sort of stone pick or axe or something. But otherwise, the rest of them are unarmed, except for their claws. And as you can see, these 4 kind of match. This one isn't from the same range or the same sculptor. He's kind of different. He's shaved his boobs for some reason. I don't know why. There would be a boob window there. But, oh well. Now, I was experimenting with the snow texture on the bases. Last time I did snow, I sort of did a first trial of this product, the foam snow from Vallejo, which promises to just give you snow in one coat, as compared to the mixture of glue and paint and snow flock that I usually do. And this does cover in one coat, so to speak. You lay it on rather thickly. However, it looks like melted snow. Now, I don't know if you can still tell, because what I did was I wasn't entirely happy with that, so I did my normal snow mixture as a second layer on top of the foam snow. But I think you can still see some of this Vallejo stuff peeking through some of the edges. My eyesight isn't good enough to tell until I watch this back whether you actually can see or not. But so this stuff gives it has no texture. It just gives a smooth sort of white paste looking coating. And yeah, I'm sorry to say I don't, for most purposes, I don't like it. I'm not going to use it. Well, I will use it because I bought this bottle. I have to use it up. So I'll use it the same way I did on these. That I'll give. I mean, normally I always do 2 layers of snow normally, because the snow flock is always going to be rather transparent. It's going to show through. So if I want thick snow, I always do 2 layers. So what I can do to get rid of this stuff is to use this as the first layer, and then use the flocking as the second layer, and that way I'll get the best of both worlds, I think. Anyway, it's always fun to paint some monsters, but time to look at works in progress. So I've not quite gotten around to starting any of these Dark Sword miniatures, but they are, of course, what's up next, and we'll be painting up these during all of the coming week. Hopefully I'll get a lot of it done, because this is the final week of my summer vacation. Work starts up back again on next Monday, and normally there's 9 minis that I've prepped here, and you know, if I was just painting them in my normal tabletop style, getting 9 minis done in a week of vacation would be nothing, no problem at all. However, because I'm going to try to follow along and, you know, the instructions on this DVD set a little more carefully, and try to learn some of the techniques for higher level painting, it might take a bit longer. I might not get completely done. So I want to talk a little bit about a few things before we start here. One is the Dark Sword miniatures line in general. Now, the sculpts, you cannot criticize them artistically. They are very, very beautiful sculpts. There's no doubt about that. I can't talk about that at all. However, you can talk about aesthetic preference and preference for painting styles. And what I already suspect is that these are not really my cup of tea, you know, because they are too realistic. They are completely realistic in proportions. They are not exaggerated or cartoony in any way. But the thing is, to my tastes, that doesn't work at this scale. I find that it works for display level painting. It works for if you paint very, very carefully and only look at it through a zoomed in camera or through magnifying glasses or whatever. But on the tabletop, this is not functional. It's not going to pop. It's not going to be as interesting to look at as sculpts from certain other companies that go for a more, well, what's commonly called heroic style, where some features are exaggerated. That's just preference, though. I mean, I cannot, like I said, I cannot fault the sculpts in the Dark Sword line as far as artistic merit goes. However, they are a bitch to assemble, and I'm holding an example of this. Staff is a bit crooked. That's not the main issue. The main issue is that I had to glue the hand on here, and if you look carefully, you'll see the joint is a bit crooked. Again, this will not be visible at arm's length, but it is annoying. And the joins are very small and very fiddly, and in this case, it's the arm it's a better join. It's at the shoulder, so that's easier to glue in. But Still very small connection points. You have to use super glue and accelerant to make it work at all, which makes it brittle. I mean, this arm sticking out, I mean, as soon as anybody hits this, it's going to break off. I already broke off. These wings are affixed here at the hair, and I already knocked one off once and had to re-glue it, and I haven't even started painting it yet. So yeah, that's a difficulty you have to consider. Moving on to what's actually on the DVDs. Let's move these out of the way for a minute so I don't knock them over while I'm showing you this. Here's the contents page for the 3 discs. I'm not sure if this is in the right... Yeah, hopefully you can read the text here. So, most of disc 1 is not directly applicable to this current painting. It's prepping, assembling, paint selection, lighting, mold lines, color theory. All of this is stuff that I know very well. Well, partly because of this DVD. I've watched this DVD several times, and it has helped me develop my techniques and my theory. But then we go on to base coating, general shading, and general highlighting. And I'm going to do that. They demonstrate that with a green cloak. So I'll try to rewatch those parts and see if I can pick up anything new that I didn't catch last time. Now, one thing that I'm not going to be working on at all is this section here, washes, glazes, and wet blending. Why not? Because I've already done it so much. What they demonstrate this on, they're painting wolves. They're painting 2 versions of the ghost miniature, but they're painting it as an ordinary timber wolf. And they demonstrate how to use wet blending and washes and glazes to get natural transitions on things like fur or well, you know, natural animal textures. And that section has actually already been very useful to me. I mean, if you remember, was it a year or 2 years ago where I painted a lot of wolves and some other animals for Frostgrave? I was using these techniques, and so I have practiced that extensively already. And yeah, there's no point going over it again. The rest of disc 2 I'm going to work on. I'm gonna have to spend some time on skin tones, and weathering I have not done very much. The cloth and shear effects, they use a different technique that I've used before. They glaze the skin tone on after the cloth instead of the other way around. So I'm going to practice on that. As for armor and weapons, they are mainly showing NMM, and I think I'm going to try to do some NMM steel on a non-metallic metal, that is, on a couple of weapons. But for the armor, so they have this Jaime Lannister figure. They show painting his armor 2 ways. One with non-metallic NMM gold, as you know, Lannister colors, and one with a more metallic white for the Kingsguard colors. And what they're using is, let's see if I have it here. Oh yeah, they're using this paint, Pearl White by Reaper. And I think I'm gonna go that way. Because I only have one figure, they have 2 copies of it, so they can paint it 2 different ways. I'm going to paint the white armor on this guy. Because the next DVD set, the one Marika Reimer, does NMM gold again for Tywin Lannister. So, yeah. And you know, NMM is one of those techniques that I kind of doubt the utility of anyway, but I'm going to try it a little bit, but I'll find some other figure to try to experiment on later. Yeah. On disc 3 we got hair and feather lighting effects, which is OSL, object source lighting. I think I mentioned in my review that this is the section of this DVD set that I find the most confusing, but we'll talk more about that later. As for freehand painting, they don't show a great deal of it, they show a little bit of painting a tattoo on somebody, and yeah, I'll try to copy that. When we get to difficult colors, white, black, yellow, red, I don't really find those difficult anymore because I practiced painting all these colors a lot. But oh well, I'll rewatch it and see if it tells me anything new. And the rest of this is no need to repeat: basing, finishing, conclusion, blah blah blah. This doesn't matter. So we'll see how much of this I get through by next week. Yeah. But just in case I'm faster than I expected and finish all of these minis, I will be prepping some new stuff. So let's move on. Well, I can't go without prepping anything new forever. I mean, I need to start some new projects. So because I hope that airbrush is going to show up sometime during the coming week, I thought I'd start a project that would benefit from an airbrush. And I think giant minis like these are the perfect project to start on, because they have big areas of that you know, it's easy. It's good to lay down a layer of paint over a large area quickly with an airbrush. So I got my Bones Hill Giants and the Stone Giant out, and as I've mentioned many times, I think these kinds of minis are what Bones material works for best, because they are big, which means they don't lose as much detail as smaller figures because of the material, and Giants are kind of chunky. They're all their arms and equipment are, you know, thick, which means that it won't deform as much as the plastic will in some other cases. The only thing, but this is not specifically about Bones, is that when it comes to giant miniatures, just about every company has problems with scale. I mean, these Hill Giants are bigger than the Stone Giants, and you know, I don't want to harp on about D&D lore and the fluff, but it's a little disappointing. But what you gonna do? They can't keep it accurate, I suppose, because the biggest Giants would be way too big. Oh well, but I'll get started prepping and assembling these. In new arrivals, very quickly, there's not a lot to show you this week. I got an order from Heresy Miniatures, some resin kits. I forget what this one was, but most of them are. I think they're supposed to be the Hellbeast. No. Okay, this is the Minotaur named Manbane, and the others are. It's hard to tell because they're in so many pieces, legs and body and head all separate. These are known as the Hellbeasts, which are like big dog-like creatures. And I don't know what this is. Free figures to offset your shipping. Oh, well, that's nice of them. It looks like some little demonic grubs of some kind. Oh well. Might be come in handy sometime. The other thing I want to show you isn't actually miniatures. It's miniatures, but it's not. I regard it almost more as scenery. This was a Kickstarter I backed for mimics in resin. So what it is, let's see if I can find a good example. For example, here. They have everything in two versions. There's a trapdoor, which is like a normal trapdoor, and then there's a trapdoor which is turned into a mimic. A mimic in D&D is a monster that can masquerade as just about anything else. And the normal, let's see if we have that here, the sort of standard configuration that you always see in images is this. It's a treasure chest, and then it turns out to have teeth, right? But the interesting thing with this is that they've made mimics in all sorts of shapes. Like here's the grandfather clock that turns into a mimic. Here's a barrel that turns into a mimic. I think it's a gravestone that turns into a mimic. Yeah, so a hat that turns into a mimic. A really cute idea. That's why I backed it. I quite enjoyed that. But I'm not adding these as into my total purchase minis because I don't regard them more as scenery than as minis. But I think I'll start painting these up soon because they're nice side projects when I need to relax from other things. That was the show for this week. It's hopefully interesting to you. Click like, subscribe, and comment. And I will see you next week. Until then, I'm Dakian, and I'm signing off.